give you a bunch of different scale bar alternatives. So you can just quickly choose one of them, and it will put it into the screen. And it's very intuitive. What you can do is you can zoom in with the layout so that you zoom to the page. And then what you can do is you can click it and change it so it shows whatever you want it to show, right? And if you double click it, you can change, I want from miles to feet. You can change the number of divisions, number of subdivisions, how the scale bar looks. So let's say I want to adjust it to 1,000 feet flat. So you just resize it to 1,000 feet, right? Okay, so let me just zoom to my whole page view. And then the next thing you can put is actually a legend, which is very detailedly described in the tutorial that we write, so please read that. I'll put it for you right now, but putting a legend is not really one click. So you go and insert the legend, it will ask you which layers you want included in the legend. I know that right now I'm displaying my second parcels, right, which is the year ranges. So I just want the second copy of the parcels in, and I want everything out. So what I do is I highlight them and put everything to the left, and just leave the parcels there. And then I just keep clicking the next until I see my legend. Again, these are all could be changed later once you create the legend. So it automatically created me a legend, you see? And then what you can do with this legend is that if you double click it, you could always change, like, let's say we want to put a white background underneath it so that it's more readable. And then you can change how things displayed in here as well. Let me zoom in so you can see it a little bit. So let's say the year 0. Remember we talked about it, that year 0 is like a no data. What you can do is go to your parcels, go to the properties, and choose this year 0, right? And then you can just say no data. Oh, I'm sorry, I need to edit the label. And just say no data. And say okay. And then it will be updated as no data. So just like this one, if you turn this off and double click your legend, and inside the general, if you put the first copy of the parcels into the legend as well, now you would have the land use. And again, the land use was numbers, remember? Which didn't really make sense in the legend. So you can go to the properties again, and you can change the label. Like 1, 2, 3, we combined them, remember, was residential. And then 2 was commercial. Oh, I'm sorry, mixed use. So you can type these all, and you would only need to type them for once. And if you click, whatever you type them up, the legend would show them according to that. And also you can change how things appear in the legend as well. So if you go to the land use, if you go to properties, remember this one doesn't have a no data as well. It's just uncategorized land use. So what I can do is I can click it and say no data. And then I can get rid of this all other values, because I don't have all other values except 1 through 11 and no data. So what I can do is I can put this as white maybe, and then once it's highlighted, I move it down so it will be put down in the legend as well. So GIS would display the legend according to whatever it sees on your map, right? If you put it all the way on the back, it will appear all the way on the back. Does it make sense? Okay. Now, let's assume we did this map, and there are ways to make this legend more elegant. Again, read those tutorials and go through with them if you can. What you can do is go to File, save it always before you export it. I'm not going to do it right now, but always save it. And then what you can do is you can go to Export Map, and you will see an export window, and you can directly export it to an AI file, an Illustrator file. You can do a PDF export as well. It will usually be a digital PDF, meaning Illustrator or CorelDRAW or Photoshop can open it and see the vectors. But usually the safest is to do an AI file. Now, the other way to export this map is, unless you want a paper and a presentation, unless you really just want the data so that you could work in another software, is what you can do. Let's assume like I want to export my roads and buildings. I can right click the buildings, go to data, go to export data, oh, I'm sorry, go to data. This time, rather than export data, just say export to CAD, and then you will see like a CAD export wizard on your screen. And what you can do is you can export to AutoCAD file. The only downside of it is that it will not remember any colors because the AutoCAD doesn't have attributes, right? So the moment you export any data from here to AutoCAD, you would lose everything in the attribute table. You just have the geometry. The good thing is if the geometry has 3D information, it will be there. So let's assume you exported the elevation points. They would literally be points in 3 dimensions in AutoCAD. Right? Does it make sense? But if you export the building outlines, it will just be flat outlines because the building heights would only be available in the attribute table of the buildings, which is not exported to AutoCAD. But if you need a quick 2D base map, you can just export everything at once. All you need to do is, let's assume I want to export open space, let's assume I want to export elevations, and then let's assume I want to export roads. So you drag everything in, you select the AutoCAD version you want to export, and then you define where the output file is, and then you just say okay, and then wait for a couple of minutes, it will export. Now, when it exports, the units are real time, so it's 1-to-1, right? So if something is 100 feet, you would see that it's 100 feet in AutoCAD. Usually when it exports, you would see the file so far away from your center in AutoCAD. Are you familiar with AutoCAD's like center origin? The reason is because this is world coordinate system, right? So it will be somewhere in millions, very far away from the origin. You can keep in there, it will be the original rotation, it will be the original size, scale, location of the data. The good thing is you work in AutoCAD, you go back to GIS, you find another layer, you export it, you copy and paste, they will overlap automatically. The reason is they're geo-referenced. Does it make sense? Any questions? Okay, so there is actually more than we covered in the tutorial, so feel free to do it. Yeah?
What if we wanted to like have more access to more locations? Where will we go to like get that?
Did remember the first web page that I showed you, NYC data, open data? Every file that we work today is actually copied from there. These are just trimmed versions of it. So if you want all the buildings in New York City, just go to that page and just type building footprints or buildings. You would see that it will come up with many layers. Just choose the one that you need to, right? The only thing that's different from this map in that site is the parcels. If you need the parcel information, don't search it with parcels, search it with map plural. Does it make sense? And it's written in your tutorial. So that name change is written in your tutorial. Or just email us and we'll provide and send you the link to that web page. Okay? Okay.
That's it.
Did you guys get? Yeah, you follow along? So you notice this is also the site, the pavilion, right? So there's a lot that you can do with this, even in terms of